making a movie physically and mentally destroys you. You know, it just does.
It becomes such a labor of love that sometimes we neglect to look at it as a business.
People lock into this idea that there is a correct way to do things. There's not. There's a million ways to do it.
Video has become the most effective way to get people to do something that it is you want them to do.
It's time for Filmmakers to Get Real with Jeffrey Michael Bays and Forris Day Jr.
You could come in like, hello everybody, and then leave a pause. I just created suspense. That's what today's episode's all about. Hello everybody. That's right, we just created suspense. And that's what today's episode is all about.
Well, welcome back to the podcast. We are going to be talking about suspense today. We thought, occasionally that we should reveal some suspense tricks, because that's sort of what I teach. Well, it is what I teach when I go to workshops and film festivals and things like that. So we're gonna talk about the 3 basic steps of creating suspense today, both writing and directing, and that'll be a little bit later in the show. But we just had our interview with William Dickerson. So what did you think? That was one of our best, I think.
I enjoyed talking with him. I think the guy's brilliant to make these 2 films with basically no money. I did disagree with the music. The quote he said on 90s was the only. I don't. How did Will say it? The 90s was the best era for music, because I love music from all eras. So sorry, Will, I disagree. But and he hurt my precious 80s.
That's right. Yes, well.
All my Steely Dan albums, I got to go cry over now. Oh, Steely, I'm so sorry. So okay, I'm getting off my soapbox now.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's good to have you back on the show, because you were gone for so long. Speaking of which... we got to break this up with all the smart stuff that you say. I got to have the dumb stuff that I say. Speaking of which, you are still working on the Gaffer Tape show, and we have secured the interview with the guy. And I'm excited about this because no other podcast in the history of podcasts has talked about gaffer tape.
I don't think you are excited.
Topic.
Are you? Are you excited?
I am. I'm feigning excitement as best as possible.
All right. This is why we're here to help. Yeah.
Well, my question for you is, what are you going to ask him? What's the big question that you want to know?
What are we up to? Episode? Are we? This is episode 34 now. Yeah. Have you ever known me to plan that far ahead?
No.
If I haven't planned that far ahead in 34 episodes, don't plan on it now. Trust me, it'll be brilliant. I guarantee you, people will come away with a little tidbit of information that they didn't know before.
By the way, on an upcoming show, we're talking with Ben Yenny, the guerrilla rep. He's going to be talking about different ways to finance your indie film, and he specializes in micro-budget films, so less than $250,000. Different ways to use tax credits and all of that sort of stuff before you even start to talk to investors. And we're also going to talk about, the process of getting investors, and he compares it to dating. So he's gonna teach us about dating.
Well, I'm gonna compare my gaffer tape to dating.
Okay. That's a good place to take a break, and it's about suspense today. We are going to dig deep into the art and craft of creating suspense in your film, and some things might surprise you. So, shall we take a break and get right into it?
Let's do it.
Okay, all right. We'll be right back. That's one thing Alfred Hitchcock was really good at, creating suspense with a camera. For the last couple of years, I've been teaching Hitchcock suspense techniques at festivals like Buffalo, St. Louis, Palm Springs, Los Angeles. Filmmakers are learning easy tricks for building suspense that are so easy to implement. Now there's a way for you to get access in my new book, Suspense with a Camera. It's available in bookstores now. And don't miss our free docuseries on YouTube called Hitch 20. That is Radislav Drakovic, his rendition of The Funeral March of a Marionette, which is the theme song for our Hitch 20 series on YouTube, which is all about Alfred Hitchcock. And Forris makes a frequent appearance on that show as a filmmaker, commenting on Hitchcock's work.
Mm-hmm. We have 3 more episodes to do, by the way, so we'll get to those at some point.
We should get to that, yeah.
We should.
Yeah. So our listeners are waiting in suspense for the 3 steps to creating suspense.
Yeah, I want to hear about them.
And by the way, that's a misnomer that if you keep somebody waiting, that's suspense. That's not really suspense.
It's not?
No, keeping somebody waiting is not by itself inherently suspense. So I just want to correct that falsity.
Well, now I've been corrected because guess I got to stop leaving my family in suspense every time I'm supposed to show up at their house on time.
Well, suspense is actually more about making somebody want to reach in and change something that you're doing. So perhaps that happens in your family. Maybe they're wanting to change your decisions.
Yeah, I've seen a few hands up in the air like they're going to reach in at me.
So yeah, the 3 steps to creating suspense, pretty simple. Step number 1 is to share a secret with the audience, and this is the basic way to do it. I mean, there are other ways to do it as well. The example that I use in my workshops is a kid on a treadmill, and he's it's a treadmill that's powered. It's a self-powered treadmill, so he's trying to keep up. Mm-hmm. And so he kind of dances around on the treadmill and spins around and almost falls off. And at that moment where he almost falls off, because it's a precarious situation anyway, we feel like, oh no, he's going to fall off. And that provokes within us the feeling of suspense because we want to reach in and save him from falling off of the treadmill. So that's the example I use, kind of the basic feeling that you feel during a suspenseful scene is that your instinct is activated, that you want to reach in and stop something from happening. But of course you can't do that because you're just a passive viewer watching a flat screen.
What if you wanted the kid to fall? Like if you're one of those people who watches YouTube videos to laugh at people, that's like taking a suspenseful moment and then turning it into a laughable one. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But I got this kid running in my mind on a treadmill. Yeah. Well,
and that kind of gets
do anything about it.
Right. And that kind of gets to step 3, which is the surprise twist. You do not want the kid to fall because you do not want the expected outcome to happen. And step 2 is close calls. So just to recap, step 1 is creating a secret with the audience, which that has little to do with the kid on the treadmill, but we'll get to that in a second. But the setup, the precarious situation, that's step 1. Mm-hmm. And then step 2 is you tease that dangerous situation with close calls. That something bad almost happens, or could very well happen, and you create a situation where it almost happens but then doesn't. That's step 2. But it's like gambling. It's called the near miss effect. The near miss effect, where the gambler almost wins. He gets, almost gets 3 sevens, but the third 7 goes away, and he feels like he almost won, so he's that much more addicted. He thinks he's on a winning streak.
Yeah.
If you create that feeling in your audience that they almost got caught, then that creates an addiction in your audience as well, and they'll hang on to find out more. That's the trick on soap operas. Mm-hmm. Is that things almost happen, but yet they never do.
And yeah, they almost happen, and then you got to wait till tomorrow. So now it carries that suspense over, a 23 and a half hour period.
And then step 3 is you expect it to happen, but something else happens instead at the last minute. A surprise twist. It's like a magic trick when the magician has a coin in his left hand and makes you think it's in his left hand, and then does a lot of different kind of weird stuff, and then reveals that the coin is actually in the right hand and nothing is in the left hand. That's the trick. That's the excitement that you feel watching a magic trick, even though you expect it. You know you're going to be tricked. You know the magician is going to trick you, but you have a satisfaction that he was able to trick you. That's the same way that suspense works, is that the director has tricked you. And that's the satisfaction you get from the surprise twist. And Hitchcock said the bomb should never go off. And what he meant by that is that if the bomb actually does go off, then, well, that's no fun, because you expected it.
So the bomb would be the secret that the audience knows in a bomb, a bomb under a car or something.
Right.
And the audience, that's the secret, but the character doesn't know that the bomb is in his car. So that's the suspense. We know it, he doesn't. So that's the. So in your example of a kid running on a treadmill, what would the secret be like? Would it be like a tight shot of like a bearing wearing out it's about to break, but the kid's running and we don't know it, but we know that's going to break, and then he trips?
Well, the kid doesn't know how much danger he's in, for one. Yes, he's happy. And where are the parents?
Yeah.
Suspense is an overall question about the situation. Like, will he fall? Will he get caught? Will the bad thing happen? Will the secret get out? Will the bomb go off? That's suspense. So you tease the audience around that question. Will the bomb go off? And then the answer, of course, is no, it won't go off. And that's the twist.
And I think that feeling of helplessness as an audience member adds to that suspense, because you're helpless and nobody really wants to be helpless. So it kind of makes you feel, as I think about it, watching suspenseful things, it's an uncomfortable feeling, but then it's satisfying in the end usually.
Yeah, and
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It's creating a feeling. It's a frustration, but it's what the film theorists call an entertained frustration.
Yep.
That it's a fun frustration. We love that feeling of being provoked to reach in.
And anyone can use this in their filmmaking. If you're an indie filmmaker, if you have a scene and you want to add some suspense, he goes to the gym and works out on the treadmill. Kind of boring, but now if you add like cutaways of, the thing's going to start burning or whatever. Yeah. No, I mean, you can probably take any scene and make it, because treadmill would be a boring scene to watch someone on a treadmill. But now if you know you got a secret, the bearing's going to go and the guy's going to flop through the front of this treadmill out of the gym that's about on a 10-story building with a glass front. And you're like, oh, no, don't. You can add some more elements to it. The window's shaking loose. The bearing's going to pop on the treadmill. Everything going wrong at once.
Or the building's on fire and he doesn't hear the fire alarm because he has headphones on. So he's walking away on the treadmill when everybody else is running out of the building, and he doesn't know about it. It would
be interesting to take a very boring scene and see what kind of suspense you could add to it by using your 3-step approach.
And the secret doesn't need to be a bomb or, a dead body or something like that. It could also be just a secret that a character is holding from the other characters. A common one is a pregnancy. You see that a lot in, soap operas and whatnot. Someone is pregnant and they're afraid to tell everybody else. That can create suspense as well, because you create close calls where that secret almost gets out to someone else that we don't want to find out.
So it can be an event, a thing, anything.
Right. And if the secret gets out, it changes everything, changes the plot, destroys the whole plan. And those kind of secrets, the best way to find them is to go back to childhood, the kind of secrets that a child would have, like hiding in a secret place, eavesdropping on adults, overhearing something and then not telling anyone, or doing something wrong and being afraid of getting caught. Those sort of simplistic things are really the best ingredients for suspense because they're universal. Everybody can relate to it at any age.
Yep. That's truth. Because you think about even some things that adults do, and when you say, oh, that's childish, but it's also suspense.
It is. Absolutely.
I didn't steal your banana out of your lunch. Dun, dun, dun. What happened to the ticking time banana?
So that's true. I mean, that's a good scenario. I mean, that works. You steal a banana from the office lunch refrigerator.
Yep.
And then the person comes along and says, "Where's my banana?"
Yeah.
And the audience knows where the banana is. The audience knows the secret that this character has stolen the banana and he's hiding it. So that's suspense.
And then you walk by his seat and there's a banana peel under his chair. Will he see it? Suspense, because will he get away with it? And then
there you go.
And then you walk by, don't see the banana peel, and you're like, whew. Unless you're voting for the guy who took the banana, then you're.
And the close call
depends
is
on who you're voting for.
Is that the person that could see the banana and find out the secret gets really close to finding it, gets really close to seeing the banana peel. It's, it's just right there. And the audience is like, why isn't he seeing it? He's going to see it any minute. Why isn't he noticing it? It's right there. And maybe he sees it and, and doesn't connect the dots, doesn't realize that's his banana. So a close call is very much about the victim being clueless and that being funny, because that element of humor making us laugh and giggle in that moment of tension is also a part of it. That's what makes it entertaining.
I'm going to have to start watching movies with the suspense eye to catch all the little things, because sometimes these little things, they just go by you. But when you realize it was well done, well calculated for suspense, that's from a radio
So what
program.
what would the surprise twist be in the banana scenario?
The surprise twist would be the guy who ate the banana, and then he saw the guy coming and he throws a banana peel under his chair. And the guy walks by. Now he's like, I'm off the hook. He's such a dummy. The guy walks away, and then he goes to stand up and he slips on a banana peel and falls on the floor. And the other guy turns around real quick and sees a banana peel and the guy laying on the floor. That would be justice served. The end.
There you go.
You could put a banana peel on your book cover. Well, as Steve Kaplan
Steve Kaplan.
did that. So we can't take that. Steve's ahead of you on that one.
Yeah.
Steve Kaplan's comedy book. So yeah, your book I love the cover of your book, Suspense with a Camera. All this information's in your book, isn't it?
The book also covers camera techniques and visual storytelling and those sort of things that kind of heighten the moment. Because the trick is to really make the audience feel like they're actually in the room and the whole thing is happening live. So you forget you're watching a recorded movie and you feel like you're live in the moment. And that's the key.
Yeah.
So we talk about all of that in the book and a lot more. A lot of these things that that we talked about on the Hitch 20 series, a lot of that is in the book as well. So if you're a big fan of that.
It's a hefty book.
Yeah.
I remember when you were coming out with it, and I remember there was some discussion on the cover. And I'm telling you, this cover that you got, it just nails the book. It's got it. When I look at this cover, I think of Grace Kelly. It looks like Grace Kelly. It's not Grace Kelly. But Grace Kelly, of course, was in Rear Window, and she was such a beautiful actress of the era. And then she became a princess, so then she stopped acting. But Grace Kelly, when I look at this cover of your book, it's like Grace Kelly's on the cover. It's really cool.
And the reason it's called Suspense with a Camera is because it's the first book about suspense to actually address filmmaking and visual storytelling, because there are a lot of suspense books out there that are about writing suspense in novels and things like that. Because when I did research about, to write this book, I was looking at all the other books about suspense, and they're all about just writing. And this one really addresses the camera, because the camera is your tool. The camera is your storyteller. And so it's impossible to talk about Hitchcock without addressing his use of camera. So that's where you get Suspense with a Camera.
You did some cool breakdowns that I think would, for any filmmaker, I think a filmmaker, if they broke down the films the way you did, you broke down an Alfred Hitchcock Presents called Dip in the Pool, and it's just a shot list, basically, medium wide. And when you visually see it, I think that can help filmmakers like, oh, what kind of shots do I get? Well, if you look at this, it's just mediums, wides, and a few close-ups. Very limited type of shots, but he really told a pretty good story in Dip in the Pool. If you've never seen that one of our Hitch 20 episodes, we do a breakdown of Dip in the Pool. Really clever, really clever. But I like how you did that, is all I'm saying.
We were surprised by the results of that, actually, because we were trying to find out how many close-ups he used in his films, because most of the storytelling and most of the emotion, that's all done in close-ups. Well, by picking apart shot by shot one of his episodes, just a random episode, by the way, nothing special about that episode, we found that 93%, something like that, of the shots were just kind of standard medium shots. Just kind of your, nothing happening kind of medium shots. So that's shocking that only 3% of the film is close-ups. And I think as we go and do the same study in other Hitchcock films, I think we'll find the same thing, that the close-ups are saved. They're used very deliberately.
Mm-hmm.
And he often said that if you overuse the close-ups, then they'll lose impact very quickly.
Yes. I wonder if he did a huge difference between his TV stuff and his filmmaking and his, theatrical release type of stuff. Like, to compare them. That would be an interesting comparison.
Well, actually, not much difference, as it turns out. A lot of television back then were using a lot of really close shots, because I think the whole idea was that you want to create the feeling of a life-size person in the living room with your television set. So they framed them so that the face would be as big as a real face in your living room.
Okay. Yep.
But he didn't do any of that. He was all very much still very cinematic. And you see that in a lot of the episodes he directed.
And you got to remember, a television set back then, if you had what was considered a large screen, that'd be like a 27-inch diagonal.
Yeah.
So picture 27 inches, turn it diagonal. That was a big screen. Like when I was a kid, we had a console TV that was a 27, and that was your average large size TV. So nowadays the TVs are so huge. There's TVs that take up like a whole wall in some people's houses. So it's changed the way that you shoot things, in my opinion. And Hitchcock, was working with that medium of a very small screen on the TV shows. Anybody who did a TV show was working with a very small, something that would be very small in your living room. So the fact that he didn't use a lot of close-ups is kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, and there's a lot of resistance about that. There's a lot of resistance. I sense and I hear a lot of resistance when I teach this, that the filmmakers today, they want to use close-ups. They want to overuse close-ups.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be learned from that.
Filmmaking being an art, I believe people should do whatever they want with their film. But if you can open-mindedly look at things that, Hitchcock has done, or, even Quentin Tarantino gets a lot of slack sometimes for what he does, but he also gets a lot of praise. He's so outside of the box from what is the standard type of filmmaking. You can learn the rules before you break the rules, I guess would be a good way to put it.
Yeah. Well, a good thing to think about is how close, when you're standing next to someone, how close is too close in proximity?
Yeah.
How close do you get before you feel uncomfortable? And that's a good rule of thumb. There is a too close when it comes to the actors on screen. And the more close you feel with them, the closer the bond is with that actor, then we accept a closer relationship at certain moments.
And if he's the bad guy and you don't want to be close, and then you put that person close, then creates suspense, kind of.
And makes you feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what you want people to feel in that moment.
Like the Halloween movies, when Jason comes up close to the screen, it's like, oh, he's like right there.
But see, that's a good example, because if you have a shot like that in your film where you want the audience to feel really uncomfortably close with the villain, then all of the close-ups before that are going to dissipate that effect.
True.
So that if you've been really close with all the other characters and then you're close with the villain, not so much impact.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this whole
That makes
idea of
sense.
saving it. It's saving it
Yeah.
for the right moment. That's what it's about. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, if somebody really wants to learn more, shameless plug.
Suspense with a
I need
camera. Yeah.
All right, get your book. I don't know. I like the book a lot. So
Well, thank you.
But
I appreciate that.
it's got all cool stuff in it. So
All right, so there we go. So that's our suspense lesson for today. Again, to recap the 3 steps of suspense. Step 1, create a secret and share that with the audience. Step 2, tease the audience with close calls about that secret getting out and creating an addiction in the audience. And then step 3 is actually providing closure and a sleight of hand, a surprise twist. So there you go.
great information.
Get Real Indie Filmmakers is created by Forris Day Jr. And folks don't realize that you also have a whole separate series on YouTube called Rolling Tape.
Right, produced by you, and it's also brought to you by Jeffrey Michael Bays, the author of Between the Scenes, what every film director, writer, and editor should know about scene transitions, and of course, the much talked about Suspense with the Camera, a filmmaker's guide to Hitchcock's techniques. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Bye, Blondie.
Get Real Indie Filmmakers is a production of Borges Networks, 2019.